How are you all doing? We are in smoke-filled sky mode. It has finally joined the Fraser Valley, so we don't see the sun. We barely can see across town, but there's places that have it way worse. Hey, listen, have you ever had a dinner, like meals, and dinner in particular are meant to be like eaten together, something that uplifts people. You have good food, you have a good time with people. It generally should be something that brings people together. But have you ever had a meal, and I know you have, that has ended in upset? People being upset with one another, or just generally upset when they leave, or maybe a fight happens at the table, an argument. I don't know. I'm sure you can think of times when that has happened in your life. We generally think of Jesus, like if we were alive in the time of the New Testament, we put rose-colored glasses on sometimes, so we think everything would be, roses and chocolate with hanging out with Jesus. And we kind of know in the back of our minds it doesn't always work like that, but it would be awesome to just to hang with Jesus, and it would be awesome to hang with Jesus. That would be the thrill of a lifetime, and in the next life we get to do that. Did you know the last meal that he had with his followers before he went to the cross ended in great upset? Everybody was upset, including Jesus himself. Everybody was upset. It didn't end on a happy note. Um, we are re-engaging with our series on John 14. I have I have shared to nowhere. There we go. Now let's try this again. We are re-engaging in our series John 14 to 17. And because it's been a while, because I interrupted it with another series, and traveled, I sort of backed up and took a fresh look at the opening verse, John 14:1. Very familiar. If you're from Clem 2, I have read these verses to you, I don't know how many times, primarily at funerals. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. Very, very familiar words. But do you know the context in which they were said? At the end of the day, I'm hoping that we see these four things. Your attitude is your responsibility. Circumstances don't dictate peace, nor do they have to cause distress. You are not alone in this, so don't battle your attitude alone. And emotions are neither good nor bad. They're just indicators of how things are internally at the moment. But do not let your hearts be troubled came in the context of an upsetting dinner. That's what John 13 is all about. They're having the Passover meal together. And the whole thing is full of upset. Let me just run through a few. It begins with Jesus washing the disciples' feet. But even actually prior to that, if you think of the circumstances that are going on, they didn't realize Jesus, even though he told them, they didn't realize Jesus was about to die. But they did know that things going on around in the larger community were not necessarily always tracking well for Jesus, in particular among the religious leaders of the day who carried great power. The, the Roman leaders ruled the country of Israel, but they still had their religious leaders in place. The Roman leaders could care less about Jesus unless he caused trouble for them. The religious leaders were increasingly turning against Jesus. Some of them turned to Jesus, but they were increasingly turning against Jesus. So the tide was not going with them. They're having this final meal together. Jesus has already warned them multiple times leading up to the meal, I am going to die, be gone for 3 days, and be back. He starts by washing their feet. That would have been upsetting to them. It sounds like a good thing. It is a good thing, but it would have been upsetting to them because in the hierarchy of things, the master does not wash the feet of the people, the guests or others under him. A servant does that. So they would have been confused. Why is Jesus the one washing our feet? And then he has to get into this whole thing with Peter, of course, going over the top. Well, then wash all of me, and Jesus has to rebuke him. So now you have a negative interaction going on there. And from that, he goes on to announce that there's somebody, speaking of Judas, that's going to betray him. And they're all looking around. Is it me? Is it you? Who is it? And they're trying to figure out who is this betrayer and how and what way is he going to betray Jesus? He also gives another series of hints about his death. He keeps using phrases like, I'm going away, you can't come with me where I'm going, things of that nature, not specific like he had done just earlier, but continuing on with the talk that he was leaving. Um, and then it ends with Peter making the great statement of, even if I have to die with you, even if I die with you, Jesus, I'm there for you. And Jesus has to look and say, Peter, of all the guys here, you are going to let me down the most. You're going to hear a rooster crow, and then you're going to deny me 3 times. And now everybody around the table is upset. It even says that Jesus was greatly distressed in his spirit because he's already processing his own human emotions related to having to become a sin sacrifice the following day and what all that would mean. And now everybody's upset. And Jesus turns to them. John 14 didn't start a new episode. It's following on the tail of John 13. Put it in its context. And he turns to them. He says, oh, by the way, do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. So I got thinking about just that much. And what can I learn from it? What can you learn from it? Well, again, I noted 4 things. Probably if I put my mind to it, I could find some more, but these are the 4 things. Your attitude is your responsibility. We oftentimes allow the circumstances of life to dictate our attitude. So if things are going negative, we get into a negative mood. If things are going positive, maybe we're in a positive mood. But we allow circumstances to dictate our attitudes. And Jesus is doing just the opposite here. When he said, do not let your hearts be troubled, that's actually in what's called the imperative. It's a command. He's saying to them, you need to take control of your attitude right now. He's not saying that emotions are bad. That's point number 4. I might as well say it now. Emotions are not good or bad. They are part of the human experience, and what they are is they're indicators. They're pointing to you about how things are going on inside of you at any given moment. How things are going spiritually, how things are going mentally, how things are going emotionally. A lot of in our modern world, we just lop into mental health. But the scriptures recognize it as so much more. Your spirit is interacting with your mind, with your heart. Your heart is interacting with the others. Your mind is interacting with the others. We are whole people. And what affects us spiritually affects us mentally and emotionally. How we think affects us emotionally and spiritually and so on. But the emotions themselves are neither good nor bad, but they are indicators of what's going on in our life, and in particular in those other 2 areas. And he says, you need to know this. Don't let your hearts be troubled. There's other emotions that we grip with. He's not condemning them for having it. He's simply saying, grab it and take hold of it. And then he gives a reason right off the bat. You believe in God. That's also awesome. Believe also in me. What does he mean by that? I mean, these guys have spent 3.5 years. They gave up their fishing business. or other businesses. They left being tax collectors. They left other professions and they followed Jesus and they believed in him. I mean, Peter honestly believed he would die for Jesus in that moment. They obviously believed in Jesus. Peter had made a great profession. We're going to go a little bit long today. Jesus had made a great profession and he was commended for it. And Jesus goes on to say, on this rock, your confession, Peter, I will build my church. Don't be confused. He's not saying building it on Peter himself. He's building it on the confession, the positive confession. So what does he mean? You believe in God, believe also in me. It means that while they had a belief in Jesus and they had a certain understanding of Jesus, it was incomplete. And that incomplete belief was affecting them. And so when they looked at things like, I'm about to die and go away for 3 days, it was upsetting to them. They needed to add to that. You believe in God, good. Believe in me. Believe all the things I've told you already about me, he's saying to them. So, you're not in this alone. In your battle with your attitude, you're not in it. You and I have to take responsibility for our attitudes, but we're not meant to deal with it alone. We're meant to deal with it in the Lord, in Jesus, looking to him to help us in it. Circumstances themselves don't dictate peace, nor do they have to cause distress. What was about to happen for Jesus was very, very traumatic, but he was saying you don't have to be troubled by it. You can have peace in it if you will understand it correctly and trust the Lord. You can have peace even in this circumstance. So, those are the four things that I grabbed out of John 14:1, reading it in the context of John 13. Your attitude is your responsibility. This was a command. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Circumstances don't dictate peace, nor do they have to cause distress. Very upsetting things were about to happen, and yet Jesus is still telling them you don't have to have a troubled heart. Number three, you are not alone in this. Don't battle your attitude alone. You believe in God, believe even more fully in Jesus as you deal with the attitudes of life. And four, remember, emotions are neither good nor bad. They're part of the human experience built into us by the Lord to be pointers to how things are going. Things are going well, things are not necessarily going well. Why aren't they going well? What needs to change in my life so things can go well? That is what emotions are there. They're there to tell us I'm sad. Why am I sad? Why am I mad? Why am I glad? Whatever. They're little pointers to help us. So that's my word of encouragement for you and for me. I needed to hear this yesterday because I was struggling with BA, bad attitude, yesterday. And so this was very timely for me as well. But keep this in mind now as we back into John 14 to 17 to see all the things that the Lord opens up and shares with them the night before he goes to the cross. Anyway, I hope you have a good couple days, a little longer than normal, but we're going to shorten it up, Lord willing, on Friday when we come back and begin working our way through the passage. Have a good couple days.